FML, and today we are working on the CLK55 AMG again. I noticed a few things while switching out the wheels and tires, and you could have seen the wheels and tires being switched out on my Facebook and Instagram, so please go check those out. Now let me show you what I'm talking about. Okay, I lied a little bit. I am going to tell you what I'm talking about, and you'll be able to see what I'm talking about throughout this whole video. The first big thing that I noticed is right here. Whenever I would turn left, this wheel would rub, and I assumed it was on the sway bar. When I had this wheel off, I could see that the sway bar is nowhere near, and someone put a rear control arm in the front. So the arm that's supposed to go back there is up here, and it doesn't have the little bend in it like it should, and it's hitting the wheel. So somebody has no idea what they're doing. Plus we have a little bit of a lower ball joint play up here. So I got new arms up front for the other side and this side. The other thing that I noticed is that this wheel sits a little bit like this, and whenever it was snowing and I would hit a slick spot, the car would do a little twitch. Well, come to find out, there's an arm back here that's bent, so we're gonna replace that. And back to the front, we this side's the worst. This got the most play in it. The lower ball joint for this arm is really loose, and there's just a smidge of play in this one, but yeah, this one right here is probably the worst thing out of everything. The other thing that we're going to do is I'm gonna install lowering springs on the front. The reason is the gap back here is pretty good, but the gap up there is really big. So I'm going to do the front first and then see how I like it and go from there. Let's get the front jacked up and get to work. As you're about to see, you can see how much play is in that ball joint. So we are going to be changing this arm and this arm right here. And they go into two like lower ball joints here at the bottom. Here and here. So let's get that going, and we need to get the strut off. Also, I do not recommend using these spacers for anything. I have some proper hub-centric HR spacers coming in, so these are junk. Temporary solution, not even a good one at that. Alright, so let me take a second to show you what we got going on here. This bushing has completely separated. This arm's supposed to be in the middle. I do not understand how this thing drives so good with so many things wrong with the suspension. I feel like I've driven cars with just a smidge play in the tie rod end, and it's like shaking all over the place, and this thing is literally just screwed up. Like, let's go on the other side. I don't know if you can see it, but right here you can see where it's been hitting the subframe of this car, just riding on there. It's just crazy. We got our control arms off. You're gonna have to excuse me, I didn't do a time lapse of it, which brings me to a point. Do you guys enjoy seeing me do the time lapse videos? Comment below and let me know. Otherwise the time lapses will be shorter. But anyways, here we go. As you can see, this is the old one, and you should see how the bushing's supposed to be in the middle. But yeah, this thing's just all ripped up. Look at that. Yeah, man. And then, probably hard to see in camera, but there's a little bit of play in that one. This one's got way more play in it, but the bushing don't look that bad. Sorry. A little cracked. We also got our strut out. We just got a nut from top here to take off, which brings me to a point. How's this come off? I'm gonna have to go Google it, cause yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe that'll be a future project, because I'm gonna probably replace this whole strut assembly at some point. But now we're going to put on our new stuff and get everything put back together and switch off to the other side. Also, I put the wrong tires on the wrong side. They're directional, and I got the front ones messed up. I got the rears right, but not the fronts. We got our little helper here today, pointing at the birds. In other news, we have our control arms on, and now I'm going to put the strut back in. But first, Apparently there's a little special tool that goes on here that unscrews like a lock ring on there that holds onto these tabs. So I will not be doing the lowering springs on this right now. These are easy enough to install and remove. So it'll be a future video on that, and I'm probably just gonna replace the struts and everything while I'm at it. Stay tuned for that. Now, let's get our strut back in there. All right, we got everything put back together. Control arm, make sure you have it going the right side up, because I did not the first time around. Got that all tightened up, our struts tightened up, and everything back here is tightened up. So let's go grab the wheel off the other side and bring it over here, because I am an amateur and I think I can whip those other ones out real quick with, I'm not gonna take the strut assembly out on that side. So yeah, let's go to work. So we are here on the passenger side, or the right side if you will, and as you can see, the arm over here definitely looks better. This one doesn't have any play in it or nothing, so it must have been changed at some point. But as you can see, this arm is the same thing as that arm, and I have no idea what they were thinking, but it's starting to twist and everything. You can see where the wheel was hitting, and oh man, I know people on forums give you a hard time when you ask questions, but ask questions. Don't make a mistake like this. I would be more than happy to answer a question about which arm goes where than seeing somebody afraid to ask a question and do this. Alright, we have our new control arms in, the correct ones. Another thing that I found is this. They left the plastic on the bushing of the tie rod. So these come and they protect the threads on your control arms or tie rods or whatever. You're supposed to take these off, but they left it on. So I just took the nut off and I'm going to pop this off, remove it, and reinstall it. We'll get our wheel back on and we'll be done with the front. I still got one more control arm to do back there. Good morning. I finished up the front of the car. Today we're going to work on that one last control arm in the front. I got the special tool ordered for getting the top hats off these struts so we can get the springs on the front, get her in for an alignment, go for a drive. So let's get our lug nuts loose, get her jacked up, and change that one last arm. And this will probably be the hardest one. Alright, we got our back wheel off, and the control arm in question is right there, and if you can look, you can see there's a slight kink right there, and if we look at a replacement, this is straight. That one is not straight, so we are going to attempt to get that one off and get it replaced. Finally got it out. This bolt was starting to seize in there, and there's like barely any room back there to get in there, but as you can see, we have our two arms out. Let's go like this and look at the difference. Yeah, she's a little bent. I did an inspection on the rest of these arms and nothing else looked bent. I'm sure the alignment guys will let me know if nothing comes out the spec, so fingers crossed that this took the blunt of the energy. I'm assuming the guy was fishtailing it, pulled the Mustang, and hit a curb. So yeah, let's get this guy back on and get our wheel back on, go for a test drive.